Hi, everyone. My name is Rebekkah Smith-Aldrich. I am the co-founder and current president of the Sustainable Libraries Initiative. And I'm joined here today with Matthew Bollerman, also co-founder and vice president of the Sustainable Libraries Initiative, and Alex, who you heard speaking earlier, who's helped organize the event and help folks with technical issues that may come up during the next hour. But our goal here is to help introduce you to a new member benefit you have as a member of the Association of Research Libraries. And we understand there may be some folks joining us from other organizations who also have this benefit through their state association for their collaboration with the Sustainable Libraries Initiative. But our goal here today is to introduce the Sustainable Libraries Initiative, help you understand what we're about, what the benefits of your free one-year membership is, and how to access that membership, and give you a little intro into what's called the Sustainable Library Certification Program, of which, if you're very interested in, you can dive into a full webinar on that next Tuesday, and Alex will give you info about how to register for that if you're interested in it. But we also want to make sure we leave time to get your questions answered. So we will definitely do that. And as Alex said, if you can't wait for the question period, go ahead and use that chat box. I will moderate those questions, but we'll have time towards the end where you can unmute, ask your questions, which might be easier for you. So we welcome that for sure. So we're going to get started and just point out again that there may be folks here not just from the Association of Research Library membership. We've got memos of understanding is what we call them with a number of associations across the country, but the Association of Research Libraries is really special. It's the first national association that we're working with. So we're so pleased that you're here today to learn more about this opportunity. And we just want to give a shout out to Andrew and Trevor at the Association of Research Libraries for reaching out and for their partnership in advancing this topic in our profession. So we're thrilled to be here today and to work with more academic libraries in the future. We've got some special folks already from the academic world in this program, some of whom you'll meet at next week's webinar talking about the certification program. So just to clarify your membership benefit that's been added to the Association of Research Libraries, you get a free membership to the Sustainable Libraries Initiative, and we're going to describe what the benefits of that are. Matthew's going to walk you through all the things you can access thanks to that. And you also get a discount on the Sustainable Library Certification Program, which we will explain in an introductory fashion here today for you. So the Sustainable Libraries Initiative, if you're not familiar with it, we're in our 9th year of existence, which is almost hard to believe. But we got together a group of folks here in New York, actually. Matthew and I are both based in New York because Matt and I were kind of connecting as professionals and really talking about the need for more work to be done in the space of sustainability. This was back in 2012 when we came out of a conference that was not a library conference. It was a conference of the U.S. Green Building Council. Matthew and I were both involved in different ways in building more sustainable buildings for libraries. And that was our professional life, and really recognizing the need to accelerate work in the area of not just sustainable design, but sustainable thinking about how we're going to operate our libraries moving forward in the face of what is coming and what is already here, thanks to climate change. So we got together a bunch of our colleagues here in New York and just started brainstorming, like, what would it look like to catalyze more action in this area? What would we and our peers need to be more successful in addressing the needs of our communities and the folks on our campuses and in our schools through library services and modeling of behavior to make sure that we're relevant and responsive moving forward and good partners to those that we work with in our communities and on our campuses. So our job really over the past 9 years is to be kind of like a let's give it a try kind of area. We're almost like, I don't want to say an incubator space because it's so much more than that. It's also an accelerator of the work and really a clearinghouse of understanding how other libraries are dealing with topics related to climate change, community resilience, and making sure that not only our communities are vibrant places moving forward, but our libraries are too. So really thinking about the viability of our organizations alongside the viability of our communities that we serve. So we've had a really wild ride. We've been invited all over the world to talk about this. We have a huge community of practice that we're going to be talking to you about here today. But it's all really stemming from our desire to understand the impacts that we've had on the planet Earth and how it is wreaking havoc with many of the systems that we all operate within. The environmental system and really handling more severe, frequently severe weather, understanding there's more of that to come in the next few decades, even if we do everything right when it comes to managing managing greenhouse gas emissions, which is highly unlikely at this point in our history, and really understanding that we're all part of this amazing place that we live on. And are we all doing our part to not only make that a healthier place to be, but also to help mitigate the real dangers and hazards that we're now confronted with due to climate change. And understanding that it's not just an environmental issue, it's tightly entwined in so many other issues that we're dealing with. But we're really faced with some very acute problems that many of us on this call can very much relate to, which is very severe weather that's impacting our communities and a lot of very dire threats to the geography where we are located. You know, I know we've got folks from all over the country here today, and Matthew and I are on the East Coast, but we work with folks on the West Coast, and in between, you saw Iowa Library Association was another group we're working with, and just seeing the severity of the weather and other environmental factors that people are operating within, I think gives us all pause. You know, to understand the severe wildfire situation going on in many parts of the country. We just had one here on the East Coast that was really unprecedented. The hurricane season is just getting worse and worse and worse. Drought seasons are longer, heat waves are longer. All of these are having detrimental effects on people's health, on our food supply, and honestly on the mental wellness of many people in our communities. And so as we think about that very almost, it feels existential threat on what we're doing, we have to find a path forward to understand our roles and our responsibilities in this moment in time. And so recognizing that we don't act in a vacuum, we need to find more people like yourselves that understand this and want to band together to move forward in healthier ways. Because at this point, we've already got predictions of what will be happening, which is an extension of what is happening. So in 2021, you might be familiar with this, every professional medical journal in the world ran the same editorial, a call to action to the medical community, helping them understand they had a professional calling to address the effects of climate change as part of their holistic practice. And understanding that as of today, we already understand that every child alive today will be negatively impacted by climate change. So this quote of being profoundly affected, it really kind of just makes it all so much heavier to understand the little people in our lives that we care so much about. They're already going to be facing a negative effect of what's going on. How do we mitigate that? How do we keep them safe? How do we minimize the harm to people's health moving forward is something so many of us are thinking about, and many of us feel a little helpless about. And so that's not a great feeling. So thinking about how we move forward really requires us to work together to get a higher level of understanding and understand where the points of action and opportunity lie. And so that's the work that Matthew and I and Alex and Roger, who's also here on the call, have been working on for now almost a decade. We found partnership through many friends and colleagues we've made through the American Library Association. Many of you may have seen the call to action that came out of ALA in 2022, really just kind of trying to set that benchmark of understanding for all of us in the profession that this is one of the grandest challenges of our time. And it's hard sometimes to see this when we're combating all the other challenges of our time, from understanding artificial intelligence impact on our work to recognizing digital rights management and managing challenges to elements of our collection and fighting for adequate funding for what we do. Like, that's a lot going on. And it's easy to lose focus on the issue of climate change and climate action. But ALA is really taking a stand here, recognizing that we all have to take responsibility for this. So in 2019, you may be familiar with that ALA declared sustainability one of the core values, which at the time was probably a dusty old list that not many people knew existed. I know I was one of those people. When someone presented the opportunity to advocate for this, I said, well, I'm happy to do so, but I need to see the list first. I never saw it in library school. I wonder if you folks did. But now this list is live and got some major attention over the past few years. And in fact, it got not only dusted off, but fine-tuned. And in 2024, here at the beginning of this year, ALA Council voted to pare down the list from about a dozen core values to just 5. Sustainability is still on that list after that very meaningful conversation, which is very, very important to understand that not only is it a professional core value to understand sustainability, but also now that it is mandated to be taught in library schools in order for those library schools to retain their accreditation in the eyes of the American Library Association. So this topic has arrived. It is here, and understanding what to do with it next is kind of the next professional challenge to think through and understand. So, oops, I went the wrong direction. We really subscribe to the idea that every job is a climate job. Understanding the scope and scale of what we are faced with here, the fact that it touches on environmental decisions, economic decisions, social interactions, and past social ills of our country, really respecting the fact that we all have a sphere of influence to make a difference in the face of what is happening now and what will happen in the future. It requires all of us to look inwards a bit as professionals, to understand where we're making decisions that could have a ripple effect and where we can use our influence for good in the face of everything that we're now confronting, which is something many of us are up for. Some of us need a break from, some of us need intermittent breaks from, but really helping people incorporate this thinking into their professional lives is where we're coming from, because we do think there's hope on the horizon, and we see a massive role for library folks moving forward because of the powerful position we hold in knowledge institutions, as well as the trust we have in many communities, because we've really built a profession around the idea of helping people and navigating a very complex information landscape. So building on that trust and leveraging it for the good of climate action is something we are now calling upon the profession alongside the American Library Association to do. So when we talk about climate action, we just wanted to unpack that word for you. And then I'm going to ask Matthew to really explain the term sustainability, because I think that's something we need common language around as well. But climate action, which is a term that gets thrown around quite a bit, in our world has three elements to it. Things that are very traditional that you may be very familiar with, which is reducing greenhouse gas emissions, which is what has been driving climate change and making it so much worse. That needs attention. And unfortunately, at the same time, we also have to adapt and face of what the impacts of climate change already are. So adapting and adjusting to the predictions of more severe weather. We've seen billion-dollar disasters in this country increase by a factor of, I believe it's 78% since the 1980s. It's just more and more frequent. We're seeing these very dire weather events from, again, extended heat waves, massive hurricanes, droughts, wildfires, all that good stuff. It's happening way more frequently, which means that we need to figure out how to work together and adjust some of our thinking in the face of that. And we're at a point in history where these things have to be dealt with concurrently. We have to be working on both of those fronts, but we must do so with a mindset of justice moving forward. So that idea of justice, many of us, use that word a lot too. In our world, what we're talking about is building empathy, respect, and understanding for each other so we can do a better job of working together to solve these huge problems that are confronting our communities and our society at large. And so doing all of this work with that lens, shall we say, is important work, but it's really complicated work. And so that's been our job for the past 9 years, is try to simplify this, make it doable, share best practices, and learn from those that have gone before us. That's what we're really all about. We do have a new document here to help focus energy around the topic of climate action, which we partnered with the American Library Association with, to really think about strategically, what should we be focused on here? Because I feel like we've got so many well-meaning people across our profession, but we're all kind of doing our own thing. And if we had a little more focus in these three key areas that I just described, we could be having a larger impact, more meaningful impact, and really leave a legacy for those that come after us of what we did in this moment in time to do the right thing on behalf of our neighbors. So the National Climate Action Strategy and the implementation guide that I'm showing here, when you have the slides, you can just click on this, it'll open the document for you. It really centers around this one-page strategy to deal with those three things I just described: reducing greenhouse gas emissions, adjusting in the face of what's going on so we can all be more resilient communities in the face of that, and doing all of this with that eye towards justice and building the social cohesion necessary to be a functioning society. That sounds pretty healthy and a good thing to me these days. So this idea of collective impact, that we all pull together in the same direction, we understand why we're doing it, we understand the priorities, and we do what we can from the place that we sit personally and professionally, is going to have a greater impact over time. And so we really operate with this theme of collective impact. We really see libraries as catalysts and conveners for collective impact. And a lot of what we talk about and show you and connect you with here through this program is designed to help you do that work, to help you do it faster, because that's what's called for here in this day. So we've got about 200 libraries now involved in the Sustainable Library Certification Program. Hundreds of other libraries, if not thousands at this point, are also engaged in work that we do through webinars, meetups, other things that we do at conferences around the country. And what we've learned along the way is that there's really 4 key attributes of what we call a sustainable library. You've got libraries that are leading authentically from the inside out. So you're strong and authentic from the inside out. You're not just talking about doing good work in the space of climate action or building empathy, respect, and understanding for each other outside of the institution. We're exemplifying that inside of our institutions. We're treating our library workers well. We're running our facilities in a way that respects the environment and the bottom line. We're really, truly living our values out loud. And so that's the first attribute. Number 2 is deliberately, intentionally being a catalyst for social cohesion and civic participation. Because without that, we are not going to make the changes and turn the corner that's necessary to keep as many people healthy and safe as possible. And then the last 2 are more traditional, perhaps, in the thinking around sustainability of working on climate change mitigation, bringing down the greenhouse gas emissions in the spheres of influence that we have, as well as being active participants in climate adaptation and really contributing to building community resilience in the ways that make the most sense in the environment that you find yourself in. So no, these are not easy things to figure out and do, but we're not the first ones to try to do this work. We've got lots of folks we can learn from. Really, the work is to organize ourselves, do so in a meaningful and intentional way, and carry out that work as fast as we can to do as much good as we can. So my kind of the way I operate in my day job, I know this isn't actually, I'm not paid to do this work. I am a volunteer for the Sustainable Libraries Initiative. Matt is as well, as is Roger. But my day job is helping 66 public libraries here in the Hudson Valley of New York. And I always try to remind myself that I have to understand where we're going in order to help my group get there. And it's the same idea with the Sustainable Libraries Initiative. We see climate change. We understand it's a major challenge for us. But how do you make a difference in the face of that? It means you have to understand the goal so that all the small things you're doing on a daily basis, all those little decisions you make every day about what to purchase, where to spend your time, who you want to partner with, are they all going in the right direction to have the ultimate outcome that you desire? And so that's where we came from, understanding the best way to help our colleagues, our peers in this profession would be to start to break down this massive problem into smaller bite-sized chunks that we could actually see ourselves reflected and actually figure out how to do. So we're not paralyzed by what we are confronted with. So Matthew, I'd like to ask you to chime in here because you do such a nice job of explaining the definition of sustainability that both the Sustainable Libraries Initiative and the American Library Associations now operate within.
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca. And thanks for that introduction. So yes, I think when we first started working with libraries and our colleagues about this is that the need for definition came up. And when we would say the word sustainable, if you asked 10 people, you got 14 different answers about what that word could mean. And so it became pretty clear that we had to settle on to something. And really, the idea of sustainability is about balance. So we have the idea that something needs to be good for the environment, that it helps the environment, that it's socially equitable, and economically feasible, right? That these 3 things live in concert with one another. So while I think, this concept is kind of at the baseline of it, you brought up a lot of different concepts that we've developed and things have changed in the rest. Like we've definitely now, ALA has a climate action strategy, but that still has a component that needs decisions to be made in this balance. For instance, you could have an instance where the most environmentally sound decision could be made, but that might be using something that's not socially equitable or maybe most certainly not even economically feasible. Where let's say I was going to put in a water reclamation system in a place where, while it's a good idea, I have access to very good clean water and am projected to do so for the next 100 years. To go down a road to put in a system like that, say to do water reclamation, is not really, it's a good decision, but it's not necessarily the right one for my community. So it's not in balance. And the idea there is all the decisions that we make, we need to try to balance them out across this triple bottom line. And that really is that first kind of true mindset that we have to take on. And what you realize is almost every decision that we make for our campuses, for our institutions, in our own lives, we can start to use this frame. So as you mentioned a few times, Rebekkah, we are growing a massive group of folks who are interested in these topics, right? They want to be able to get together. They want to learn. They want to be able to do good work because they understand that this is the grandest challenge of our time, and they're ready to get going. And to me, the question that comes up is, well, where do I start? What do I do? I'm interested in this topic. And luckily, we found a lot of like-minded people who have already thought about that too. And if they haven't, maybe they'd be interested or to help you figure out the answers to the questions that you have. So we have this great website that has all the folks that are interested and have finished the certification thing have put up their final presentations, which are slide decks of all the good stuff that they did in order to achieve their certification program. And so it's chock full of ideas and those practical things that folks had done in order to demonstrate their commitment to that triple bottom line thinking. There's policies up there. There's vendor lists. We have meetups that allow people to gather and ask those questions in kind of an open forum. And of course, we have a monthly newsletter that we share to help with that as well. So the benefit that your association leadership signed you up for by partnering with the SLI through a memo of understanding was access as an SLI member. And that's good for a year. So that's going to allow you to get access to some of the resources that are kind of behind our kind of paywall, and also give you a discount to joining for your institution the Sustainable Library Certification Program. So there's policy examples that you can use. And so if you're working, let's say whether it's a library-based policy or even a campus-based policy or institution-based policy, there might be some examples that we can help with about things like your collection development, working on your campus resiliency plans, various partnerships that you may want to undertake about and how to get that done. So some really sample language to kind of help you through that. Rebekkah and I were preparing for this session, and you mentioned, well, you think they need to know about a no idling policy? And that might be something that's important. Who knows what the deliveries you have between buildings, or when you have different students waiting to be picked up, or various things. There might be a real need to have a no idling policy on your campus or around your institution. So you never know, Rebekkah. We've done a number of webinars and training, which allows to have to have a nice repository of places that you can go and to find out maybe a little more in depth on some certain topics. I think an interesting one to try in a campaign would be the workplace wellness or a repair cafe, where maybe students are trying to getting interested in tinkering and trying to fix different things, that instead of so you're really emphasizing the repair aspect of the other R, or a different R that's out there in reduce, reuse, recycle. Repair is another good word to use out there. Then they can start to think about keeping things out of the landfill. And that might be a place for the library to provide that space to have that kind of bringing in experts that can maybe help someone to do it, and then actually bring in the stuff to get worked on. But community gardening, how do you do measurement? All sorts of great training that's out there that you'll have access to when you sign up to kind of unlock your free year of membership in the SLI. This one's very interesting. This is a CO2 calculator, where if you have the various methods of calculating the inputs or the things that you've spent money on as an institution or a building, if you have access to that, you can dump those in here and start to track the changes that you've made. So if on day one you haven't done something, let's just take an easy one, like done like changed your lights, then you could if you change them over to something that's using a lot less electricity, then you're able to see that change and be able to graph it and mark it and see the changes that you've made by going through and working through and thinking through those aspects. And that goes towards the first item on the climate action strategy, which is, Rebekkah?
Benchmarking your greenhouse gas emissions so you
Greenhouse.
understand when you make changes, had you actually made a difference.
That's right. And then you can start to show funders and talk to folks and say, hey, look at the difference we made. These are the choices we've made, and we're able to put them down. And then we also offer, if you really are scratching the surface and say, hey, where do I start? Where are things that I can do? What are quick wins that I can have? And of course, we love to replicate. We love to have the idea that you're able that someone else has already figured it out. And our folks love to share and love to say, hey, you can do this too. And so here's some examples from our program Idea Bank where you can pick this up and just start to run with it and make it your own. Clothing swaps, a DIY emergency kit. These are things that I could see on a campus that would really go over well, that the library could be part of and get a name for itself as helping reduce those aspects of waste, keeping things out of the landfill, making things be reused, if not reduced, right? Because then they don't have to buy it or do it somewhere else. So there's a lot of great ideas out there for you.
Sorry, Matt.
I think you're trying to manage the chat and move the
I'm
slides.
sorry, I am, yeah.
You're doing great. Thank you so much. And then my final piece to talk about today is a vendor list. So if it comes to time where, let's say you're looking for that help or someone to help you through a certain situation, we've are sharing vendors that we've had a relationship with. I think right now the qualifications for a vendor list is they work with one of the members of the advisory board. And we've been able to put them up there and say, yeah, I've worked with this person and they helped me solve this problem. So whether it's something to do with recycling or programming or a grant or wellness, they'll be in that list. And we're always looking for suggestions. We obviously need vendors to do different things. And so it's good for us to get those names and things of folks that you've worked with that maybe you'd like to have them back in or to be added to this list. So that's something you can get access to as well. So Rebekkah, I think that's it for me.
All right. So Matt's describing some of the things you can, once you get your free membership, which we'll explain how to do. I see there's some questions about that I was poorly answering via chat, which we'll get to in just a sec. But there's other resources that may be helpful to you as you learn more about things and you try to wrap your mind around how to plan your path forward. There's also a climate action plan template that we developed when we were doing some work with Web Junction, if you're familiar with that organization. But it's downloadable as a Microsoft Word document. It helps you organize your thinking and understanding where your points of influence may be. And this may be done in conjunction with a campus sustainability office. That will be one of your key connections that you make to understand what's already going on campus. What can you take advantage of? What can you be a part of? And where might you be influential in some of this work as well? So we're certainly not advocating that you do this in isolation. We need to understand the environments within which we work. But creating an action plan for our institutions around the National Climate Action Strategy is a good place to start to understand where you can spend your time most wisely, because we're all short on time and energy to do things. So our goal is that as much as possible of this work is really just looking at what you already do to understand how it fits in with the work, but also to set some goals for ourselves and our institutions to be more focused and deliberate in the areas that will have the most impact. And we reviewed those before, right? Bringing down greenhouse gas emissions, building community resilience, doing so with an eye towards justice, and how we do our work. That can vary from institution to institution. You've also got strategic priorities you're working on. You're all working in different environments in terms of what your campus priorities are and what your jobs are. So this flexibility, we try to build that into everything we do so that it works regardless of what type of library you're in, what your role at a library is, how much money you have, how much staff you have. We also offer free seats to a course that we partner with the American Library Association on. And this is something that you can take advantage of now that if you take advantage of your free membership, thanks to the Association of Research Libraries, you can be eligible for one of these free seats for the Sustainable Librarianship course. And if your kind of head is spinning with what we're talking about, this may be a good place to start to really spend some time and dig in on these topics and really give yourself the time and space to think about the connections to the work and where you're sitting and what you're doing. So this will start up in March. That will be announced through our newsletter, which you are now subscribed to, or actually I think ARL sends it to you via their listservs and their news. But that's something perhaps to keep your eye on if that's of interest to you. You wouldn't have to pay through the ALA site for that. We would send you a free code for that if you're one of the early folks that sign up for that. The other thing we're working on is a climate action lab. So for that climate action strategy we showed you in the template, we're creating resources that back up all the work that's likely to be embedded in that planning, in that thinking, and help you get off to a really strong start, so you're not spinning your wheels or reduplicating work that other folks have already done. So that's something to look for next year, hopefully within the 12 months of your free membership. The other things we wanted to point your attention to on the left there, you're seeing what's called the Roadmap to Sustainability. This has been, we developed it as a pamphlet. It's a cool little booklet, but OCLC really liked what we were doing and actually converted it to a mobile app. So you can download this on your phone and really start to understand some of the things we're talking about a little more and start to gather your thinking. It's a personal tool to help you organize your thoughts around this topic, what you're already doing, who your likely partners are, what some of your first steps will be. It really helps you just, again, organize your thinking, take what you're hearing in different conferences, workshops, webinars that you're going to, meetings on campus, to really start to find a path forward and organize your talking points to find other colleagues who are going to do this work with you. On the right-hand side, you've got what we call our Sustainable Library Certification Program, which actually was recognized by the International Federation of Library Associations. That was the first award we got. We've gotten several since then. But the certification program is a methodology to use in your institution to really think through everything you're doing and how to use the triple bottom line to do it. So we have a version for academic libraries, just as we do for public libraries and school librarians. And so these are 12 categories of work. There's actions that have been researched. They're cross-referenced with the Sustainable Development Goals, with all sorts of sustainable design methodologies that are out there, as well as the best thinking in the field on various issues related to community resilience, collection development, financial management. So this is really, there's certainly other ways to go about this work, but this is what we have been testing out for about a decade. And that's what those 200 institutions Matt mentioned earlier are working on. It creates, it's a dashboard that you log into, and it walks you through these activities to change your organizational culture to start embedding triple bottom line thinking into everything you do. How you purchase things, how you dispose of things, how you think about technology, where you're seeking out partnerships, how you manage that collection, all sorts of things. And it's really scalable depending on where you are in the work, the kind of energy and resources you have to put towards the work. And that's what the webinar that I mentioned next Tuesday, where you'll be hearing from one of our first academic library friends to be certified through the program, Nardia Cumberbatch, is going to donate some of her time to tell you some of her story of working in her higher education institution and doing this work. She was the second library in the country to be certified as an academic library in this program. And she made some amazing connections and some really cool things happen thanks to using this program to guide the work and where the emphasis was in the work over time. So again, interested to learn more about that, you might want to come to the webinar next Tuesday, or if you sign up for it, we'll make sure you get the recording of that. But that's also one of the benefits that you get through the new relationship with the Association of Research Libraries is a discount on signing up for this program, because there is a cost to it, because it does cost us a lot to manage the website and the staff that help make it all possible.
So Rebekkah, didn't Nardia tell us about the idea that by her joining the SLCP, it helped her to publish? What was that? What was she was telling us about?
So you see the dumb public librarians here on the call. We had to get a crash course from Nardia on really the life of academic librarians. So we built the academic library certification program with input from our friends here in New York who are in academic libraries. But the reality of how it played out, we weren't quite sure until some libraries actually did the work.
Yeah.
And Nardia pointed out that, most folks working in academic libraries, particularly in research libraries, they have to publish. You're looking at really the scholarship of the work that you do in ways that are a little different than public libraries for sure, and even some academic libraries as well. So yeah, she was able to parlay the work and not make extra work for herself, but have it really focus the work she was already planning to do in the area of sustainability. And it has some amazing outcomes for her and the connections she's made on that campus and the resources she's brought into her libraries because of her emphasis on this topic. So I hope you'll join us to hear her story because it's a good one.
Thanks.
So this list just kind of summarizes all the stuff that you have access to through your free membership. The things that are, you can pop onto the website right now and look at that first set of things there where it says free, the newsletter, get that mobile app I just mentioned, the roadmap to sustainability, poke around some of the resources, join our communities on Facebook and Instagram. It's kind of like a trend spotting area where folks are sharing cool things they're seeing in other libraries for inspiration. And then once you connect with Alex, we're going to explain how to do that. And Sophia here at the Sustainable Libraries Initiative, you'll get a login so you can get into the website and dig into some of those things that Matt just showed you. The policy database, list of vendors, the program ideas, the CO2 calculator, then the archive of recorded webinars. If you also want to keep your eye on the newsletter and the calendar, you can sign up for the live webinars that are planned quarterly, as well as the monthly meetups where we focus on one topic or another, mostly in those categories you saw in the certification program. But it's a cool way to connect with other people interested in those topics in libraries and hear what they're doing and maybe share what you've done, because we know you're already doing good work, as are almost everybody in the community of practice. And we're really learning from each other and iterating on the work of those that have come before us and those who are really concurrent with us in doing the work. So it's really fun to hear what other people are doing and learn from them as well. And then the certification program, if you're interested in that, again, deeper dive on that if you came to the webinar next Tuesday or set up some time with Alex or Sophia to learn more about that and how it might work in your institution. But I would encourage you to explore the final presentations of other libraries that have done this to get a better sense of it and learn more about it as well. So Alex and Sophia gave us this slide to help you understand for Association of Research Library members, as well as any of you who are online today who are members of the other state associations we have memos of understanding with. This is how to opt in to get your free 12-month membership. This has been negotiated on behalf of you by your association. You might as well take advantage of it. Literally cost you nothing to do it. And you can poke around and really try out some of those resources and figure out if this is a cool place for you to join up with. So going into the Sustainable Libraries Initiative website, and I bet Sophia or Alex is going to put that link right in the chat box for you. What you do is you just choose the membership type and fill out the membership form. But when you get to the how did you hear about us, select other and enter the ARL member into the notes field, which will waive the membership fee for you to get right into creating an account with the Sustainable Libraries Initiative. And then if you're interested in the certification program, you just reach out to Alex and Sophia through the email address you see at the bottom here to ask your questions, get an orientation or tutorial to that to help you make your decision or to sign up and get started.
So Rebekkah, I think a question I've seen in the chat seems to be this: is my library a member of ARL, or am I a member of ARL? Like, who can join? Like, so I guess if there's 25 librarians in an institution, could each of them join if the library was a member of ARL? I guess that's what seems to be something that's a little mysterious.
I see. And I might need Roger's help with this one because I'm not sure I know how ARL handles their membership, if it's by institution or by individual. But if it's by institution, someone at your institution would set it up and then you could share the login. There's nothing specific about your experience logging in just as a general member. If you were logging in through the certification program, that's when you want to make sure you're sorting out who's got the right login to do that work. But Roger, I see, or someone from the SLI has unmuted there, maybe to help me with this answer.
Yeah, that's me, Rebekkah.
Thanks, Roger.
No problem. Yeah, so you can be an individual member, but as ARL, you're a library, we would suggest that you would join as a library membership, and then you would share that out. So if one person joined, you had a group of you, you would share that one login credential. Our system is limited, in the capacity of making 500 and associating them like to each individual library. So we suggest that one person from the association, if it's possible, do it. But if not, then they can sign up individually if their library is a member of ARL and they state that, we will give them an individual one, but we'd prefer it. It would be easier on us to kind of wrangle and get our hands around all the memberships. If we had 13 people from each one of them, it's really difficult for us to manage. So if a second person requested from the same library, we would request that they get in touch with the other person and use that login credential from the actual library.
Matt, what other questions did you spot in the chat?
Oh my gosh, now you put me on the spot. Let's see. That was the big one. Oh, one is right off the bat. Is all of this connected with the SDGs?
So for those of you that don't know, the SDGs are the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, often referred to as the UN SDGs or just SDGs. So yes, this work is cross-referenced with that and informed by that. We found when we were beginning this project, the SDGs weren't getting much traction in the US, unlike in Europe and other parts of the world where this has become a framework for municipal planning and measurement. We really didn't see that happen here in the US. So we found it was almost a non-starter when we tried that at the beginning. But what we've done is use that to inform the work that we're doing and really see the intersections with work in libraries. So there's I think Sophia shared in the chat, we've cross-referenced the SDGs with the action items. You can see it reflected in that work. If you use the SDGs to organize your thinking with your strategic plan, we have a member of the Lindenhurst Library in Suffolk County that does that. You can figure out where the work would be, where you would want to prioritize that based on the SDG priorities that you've chosen. So I would say in general, yes, they are aligned with the SDGs. It might not be visible to you at first glance, but those are definitely baked in.
Someone let us know that they recently joined the Sustainability Roundtable at ALA.
Oh, that's great. So the Sustainability Roundtable is an awesome community of practice. They've been around for, let's see, Matt and I have both been on the board over the years, and now Mandy Goodset has helped bring it to a whole new level. But if you haven't checked out the Sustainability Roundtable, please do so. They've created some great resources for the community, including the swag rubric, which I totally love. So it really helps you think through if you're buying stuff as giveaways for students or a conference you might be involved in. It helps you kind of think that through and really operationalize that triple bottom line thinking to understand even the smallest things we buy can have an impact and really sometimes are a nonverbal message about our values. So really great stuff happening over there at Sustain RT.
Cheryl was asking, and this might be something for Roger to answer, and it looks like Evan's interested as well. Is this a calendar year relationship with ARL, or is there some other deadline that they need to be aware of? So if they were thinking of joining, like, oh, I'm going to wait until a certain time due to some project or something. What is the year of this relationship?
So currently we work on a annualized basis, a rolling basis. So when ARL signed their MOU with us, when we finally got that agreement together, what we're going to do, what they're going to do for each other, it's starting on that date, and then it rolls for 1 year. So anybody can sign up during that 1 year, and after the year, we review the relationship with ARL, and if we decide it's going to move forward for another year, then it would continue for another year. A library can only receive, as we said, a one-time free membership. So right now, we probably have 11 or so months left for everybody on the call to sign up and get their free 1 year. And the year will pass. So if you wait until July to register, we're not going to cut you off if ARL doesn't renew our MOU. You will continue to get your one free year from the day you sign up.
Okay, I think that seems really clear, Roger. Rebekkah, that's it for the questions in the chat.
All right, cool. So I certainly want to invite folks, if you have other questions or your fingers are just tired, you want to type it out, you want to unmute yourself and ask a question, you're welcome to. I'm going to wait my 10 seconds. Okay, here we go. Carrie's
Hi.
unmuted. Nice. Hi,
Yeah,
Carrie.
hi. I have a question. This may be more relevant to the certification program. I'm signed up for next week's webinar for that. But as we think about timing, so I just, if we're signing up for the next 12 months for SLI membership, and we want to do the certification program, is the certification program also tied to a year or a time frame? I mean, what would you recommend? Like, we take 6 months to like get our heads wrapped around all of the SLI materials and then organize ourselves to pursue a certificate, or kind of do it all together?
So I'd say the only kind of timestamp to be aware of is to get the 20% discount, you'd have to sign up within the whatever 11 months that are left in the MOU with ARL. But other than that, once you sign up, you're on your own clock. So there's no like cutoff. You have as long as you want to finish the certification program. So I think to your point, it's really about your individual situation of, do you need to build some buy-in with administration or other stakeholders? Or are you already have had a green team for 5 years and you're chomping at the bit, you're ready to go, let's go. So it's really more about what's going on internally at your institution in terms of, are you ready to start or not? But the only kind of timestamp I would suggest you keep your eye on is to get the discount. You want to do it in the next 11 months. Once you sign up, though, you can take as long as you want to finish.
Thank you. Very helpful.
And Rebekkah, I would add that we do get that question often, like, is it the right time? When is the right time? Today is the right time. Right now is the right time. I mean, to sign up, that's why it's a one-time membership, a one-time fee for the certification. Get started right away. Even if you don't fill in your first action item for 3 months because you're reading the site and you're doing things, get that foot in the door and start and get yourself on that pace. There is no preparing for it. You're preparing for it every day of your work life and every day of your personal life. So it's always, my answer is always, today's the right time. Why are you waiting until I do this or that? Other than needing permission from administration or whatever. As soon as your institution's ready, that's the time to go.
It's like a gym membership. That's what you're saying? You gotta join in, and then then you're feeling you've paid the money. Now I'm gonna have to do the work. I like it. That's a good strategy.
In terms of how long it takes to finish the certification, it really is institution dependent. It's designed to be done in about 18 months, but life happens, right? Like, we designed this and it went national, and then like COVID hit. And so a lot of our folks that were in this program obviously didn't work on it for quite some time while they managed the realities of COVID. And then other folks have turnover, like the champion went to work someplace else and somebody else got to pick up the mantle. So, things happen. But I do think that part of what we've designed into the certification program is the idea of changing the culture of an organization. And while there's 12 categories to work through, we do, I don't want to say mandate, but it's really smart to do the first section first, because it addresses many of the issues that will build you up for success over time. It's addressing job descriptions, policies, sales pitches, basically to administration and other stakeholders. It's like all those things to explain the why behind what you're doing, to embed it into operations. And then you can have fun, like, picking from the other categories where you want to do work. But without that kind of first layer of work that really kind of sinks it in to the organizational culture, that might be a mistake to do that one out of order. So that's our only kind of I guess the rules we make about how to do it right.
Rebekkah, question about, will the slide deck be available for folks to use? Because they're thinking of taking some things out to make that pitch to their administration about joining.
I think we can do that. I'm happy to send the PDF over to Alex and Sophia. Maybe they can send it to folks who are registered.
There you go. Yep, that's what Alex is saying.
Cool. All right, Mr. MC, any other questions come through?
No, not at this time.
All right, cool. So I'm going to ask Alex or Sophia to put the contact The link, I think, might have already happened, as well as that email address you see on the screen right in the chat box. I would, even if you're not quite sure what you want to do yet, go grab those two things just so you have them for future reference. And really reach out anytime. We're happy to answer questions that you may have about this, or once you find the right person in your institution to kind of link up with and say, yeah, we're going to do it. What's next? We're here waiting for that call from you. So thank you very much for your time today. We hope this helped clarify things, and we hope you thank the Association of Research Libraries for their partnership with the Sustainable Libraries Initiative. And we hope to see you at our events coming up.
Yeah, thank you. Nice. Thanks for being here today. Thanks, Rebekkah.
Thank you, Matthew. Thanks, Roger. Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Sylvia.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye.